Hi guys, my name's Barry and welcome back to the channel. So David Gordon Green is no more directing the new Exorcist trilogy. He directed The Exorcist Believer and he's been dropped for The Exorcist Deceiver and the sequel to Deceiver, the last part in this new trilogy that's coming out. The trilogy is still happening as far as I'm aware, because you don't spend $400 million on the rights to the franchise and then just scrap the next two films. If anything, they'll maybe scrap this trilogy idea, but they'll still be bringing out other Exorcist movies, whether they're tied to Believer or not. Rest assured that other Exorcist movies are definitely going to be happening because they cannot afford to lose $400 million. Now, the film Believer cost around $30 million at the box office. It would probably cost maybe $25-30 million marketing. So let's say $60 million that would have cost in total. As you know, cinemas take at least 50% of the intake. So the film had to make around about $120 million to break even for that film specifically. I think the film made over 136.7 million dollars. So in terms of box office for the one film, then it was a miniature success. It made a bit of a profit, but that doesn't even scrape into the $400 million rights for the film. So any films that come out in the future, if they make a profit, any of that profit just gets chewed up from the $400 million that it costs to obtain the rights to the Exorcist franchise. So if the next two films are not successful, we'll probably get a fourth, a fifth and a sixth film. Maybe they won't be tied to each other, but rest assured, we will get more Exorcist movies in the future. Anyway, going back to the director, David Gordon Green is no more. He's now out of the project. They're now looking for a new director. Who could that be? Now, a lot of people have thrown out names, all the popular names out there that are directing films these days. That tends to happen, especially with the fan bases out there, the horror fan bases. Maybe fans of Halloween franchise will throw out some names that people have directed Halloween films. The Scream franchise, I know that some people have said, well, why don't you let Christopher Landon direct it? It's not about just getting popular names. It's about getting the right person to direct these films. It's about getting someone who's got a bit of pedigree, someone who's got experience in that field. Now, I did do a video just previously there about David Gordon Green going ahead and directing a Scream movie. And I'm not just saying that because he directed Halloween and he's a popular director. Yes, there's an element to it that, yes, he directed Halloween. He's directed a horror film. He's directed a comedy in Pineapple Express. And the type of comedy and the type of horror that he's directed, merging that together, you could direct a Scream film because Scream has got horror elements, Scream has got comedy elements. So it makes sense that someone like David Gordon Green would direct a Scream film in the future. But when you look at the Exorcist franchise, these are serious films. Whether they're good or bad, they're serious movies. You've got William Friedkin that directed the Exorcist movie, William Peter Blatty, who directed an Exorcist film. So you got Rennie Harlan, who directed an Exorcist film, and it didn't work. He's not a good director. So you need to find someone, you need to find the right person to do that. David Gordon Green, at the time, they felt was the right person because he's just off the back of the Halloween franchise. They wanted to make 3 movies. He directed 3 movies before to make it a coherent story, as coherent as he could. And for them, they thought that was good enough. But obviously, after Believer, they felt, you know what? It's not good enough. I think we need to go in a different direction here. You're not the man for the job. Let's find someone else. So for an Exorcist movie, it needs to be serious. And I don't know if you can tell from the thumbnail, but the thumbnail is The Exorcism of Emily Rose. I think The Exorcism of Emily Rose is one of the best exorcism movies of all time. Not only that, it's one of the scariest horror movies of all time as well. And strangely enough, half the movie, if not most of the movie, takes place in and around a courtroom. And I would think to myself before I see it, if this is a courtroom horror movie, I won't be interested. However, I was interested. There was something about that film that made me go, wow, they can make it a courtroom drama, but still give us the horror elements of an exorcism and make it scary. And that's exactly what Scott Derrickson done. Now, you all know Scott Derrickson now. He directed Doctor Strange and obviously The Exorcism of Emily Rose. So he's got the best pedigree at this moment in time to direct an Exorcist movie. There's not that many exorcism movies out there that are actually good. Now, you've got somebody else. You've got James Wan, who directed The Conjuring, and he had that little mini exorcism at the end of The Conjuring. Now, I thought that exorcism scene was absolutely mind-blowing. It was fantastic as well. But I think with James Wan, he's too obvious of a choice. He has directed exorcisms within movies himself. But for me, I think that Scott Derrickson is the main choice for me. He doesn't pump out a horror movie or any movie every single year. I'm not saying he's not a good director because he's always available. Maybe he takes his time to choose the right project. And I think if he's approached for this new Exorcist film, The Deceiver, if it's still called The Deceiver, then I hope he jumps at the chance. If Scott Derrickson or anybody else comes on to direct the movie, there's something about what they're going to do next makes me think that Deceiver is probably not going to happen the way it was originally planned to happen. Now, I don't know how far they got in the writing process for Deceiver. They obviously got to a point where they found out a name that they wanted for it. You had Believer, then Deceiver, and then whatever else the next one's going to be, Justin Bieber. But I think they might go, do you know what, we might have to scrap or change the story that we were originally going to go with, because it wasn't just David Gordon Green that was the problem. It was the whole film that was the problem. So if you're going to take out David Gordon Green and replace him with another director, if you're going with the same story and the same title and the same cast, then you're probably going to have the same problems as you did with Believer, because 9 out of 10 people, maybe more than that, 9.5 out of 10 people go and see a movie, whether they like it or not. They come home, the general audience, they come home and go, I like it or I don't like it. But one thing they don't remember or know is who the director was. A lot of people don't care about who a director is for a film. Me being a film fan and you who's watching this video are obviously interested in who directs what. So we are interested in who's directing the movie, and sometimes that can help or not help. But the general audience will go, I don't know who the director is. I just go and see it and decide if it's good or not. Like my wife. She doesn't know who Scott Derrickson is. She doesn't know who James Wan is. She doesn't care who directs the film. She'll go and see it and she'll judge the film based on what she sees, not on who's directing it. So if she finds out that David Gordon Green's directing the next Exorcist film, she won't care because she didn't know who directed the first one. So the general audience don't care, but we do. So I don't think the director would be the only issue. If the general audience see the trailer for The Exorcist Deceiver and see the same cast and the same story, they might go, nah, I didn't like the first one, so I'm not going to see that. So I think that with changing the director, they're possibly going to change the story and maybe the title. So what are your thoughts on that, guys? There's a lot to dissect in terms of who's directing the next one, the title of the next one, the story of the next one, and where they're going to go, because they do need to continue this franchise because of the amount of money that they spent on the rights to the franchise. But leave your comments down below, guys. Let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you soon.
Meeting adjourned.
I'll be right back.
What are you waiting for, huh?
Coming to get you, Barbara.
Ever played Skin the Cat?
Someone's in the back seat!